Hi everybody, hi, I'm Chris Lethem, and this is The Economy and You. Again, we're here every Wednesday here on Think Tech Hawaii, and today we're going to be talking about a third rail topic. Yes, we're talking about the rail. So our guest today is Ray Tsuchiyama, and Ray is a longtime advocate for the rail. And Rail, thank you very much for coming on to Think Tech Hawaii today.
Thank you for inviting me, Chris.
Yes, yeah, this is one of those topics that seems to have a very sort of emotional response by a lot of folks here in Hawaii. They're either for it or against it, or they think we've spent too much money, or somebody wants to change this location and move it around. Not everybody's happy with where the rail goes. It seems like a lot of people thought it would be nice if it went by the airport, if it went all the way to Waikiki, or if it at least went over to where the university is. And so you wrote an article in Civil Beat that was published today?
That's correct.
Okay. So why did you develop an interest in this topic?
It goes back to the 1980s, during actually the Japanese investment boom in Hawaii, and it coincided with a lot of Japanese interest in the Hawaii and its economy. And if you go back to that time, Hawaii was booming. It was a population that was growing, Japanese investment, and also Japanese tourism.
Well, the Japanese stock market was in the 40,000.
That's right. It was very, very high.
Insane, yes.
And it was growing at the rate of the France GDP per year. Mm-hmm. So you can go back to that time. I was a consultant to a Japanese consortium at that time in the 80s to propose to the city to build a rail line, 20-mile rail line for free. And at that time, they wanted a model of BOT, build, operate, transfer.
But that's a big statement. I mean, there were Japanese companies that were actually interested in building the thing today that's costing us, well, we're saying now it's going to be around $8 billion or more.
Well, if you have to go back to that time, there were many models to choose at that point, but they were looking at the economic or business benefit of the rail stations themselves to derive revenues from condominiums, mixed use, commercial, retail, and all that. So they were also looking at rail as a revenue driver for the economy and also the transportation part of it.
So their business models, what you're telling me is the business model was, well, give us the land around the rail or the rail stations. We'll build the rail for free because we're going to make so much money off the ability to build infrastructure and homes and business and commercial facilities that would offset and still offset the cost of the rail plus give them a profit?
That's in theory, yes. But, it sounds simple when you say that in a package.
Well, it sounds surprising. And I'll tell you why it sounds a little bit surprising, because we have such consternation over the money we're spending for the rail. And, and of course, you see those who are really against the rail and really complain about the expenditure. The idea that the rail could actually have enough economic benefit to offset the cost, even if it was 20 years ago, sounds like maybe we're missing something pretty important here.
Well, we have to go back and kind of think out what they were thinking or the ideal situation. I mean, you can have very small, simple PPP, which is a private-public partnership, PPP. That's a kind of a joint effort to develop land around the rail station or even above. And in a very simplest case, even in California, a developer would get land or be leased land from a city agency for like 60 years or 70 years. Developer builds, hundreds of condo units, 20% affordable, and then the city will get a percentage of that, and the landowner may get a percentage of that, and that goes. Those funds go into building the rail.
Well, has anybody ever done that?
Yes, in California, yes. There's been incidences, and in Hong Kong, which is on a large scale, the entire line was built like that. So many of the mixed-use hotels and so forth were built through a consortium that actually built it without one dime of Hong Kong citizen taxes.
Well, that's so now. But is that business model can that be transported to a place like Hawaii?
I think that,
Is it possible?
well, that's the great $64 billion question,
Yeah.
or 10 billion, maybe today. But it's a mindset because you see the history of rail, mostly in the United States, has been that it's a municipal responsibility. The cities drive this. And so the federal government is interested in populating cities with more mass transit, getting people out of their cars. That's why they have money that comes from the federal government to help cities build rail. And we're in a reverse situation historically because the early 20th century was all about rail and trolleys and so forth. There were no cars.
Right.
So post-war, everybody abandoned that and went into cars. So after the decades of high oil prices and environmental impact and pollution and crowding and so forth, cities like Portland in particular are reviving their downtowns through a mixture. And this is, I'm getting to your point, that there has to be a kind of a mindset among the leading corporations, number one, the local government, and this is critical of neighborhoods because it's their neighborhoods that get impacted by a rail station. If it brings jobs, if it really stimulates small businesses and retail, restaurants, people living there and eating and shopping and so forth, wow, it is a neighborhood kind of revival when you think about it.
Well, it sounds great, but, and again, I heard it again today. Hawaii is on the bottom of the list in terms of states that are business-friendly environments to do business, to start a business. We're at the bottom of the list. So I guess my thought process is, would this help to move us up off the bottom of the list? Are we going to overregulate it? I mean, if we were to do this, would we want to give entrepreneurs some sort of latitude, just like we've done with the internet, and not overregulate them and give them the opportunity to sort of do what entrepreneurs do best, and that's create value?
Well, if you look at the best in class formula, if there was the city plus the private developer plus the neighborhood benefits plus the ROI for the developer that gives money for rail. I mean, that's the formula that we can look at. That's the ideal best. But you're correct in that we're not a Houston where you can get things changed in the land use in 6 months from ag to apartment or whatever. But Houston is getting better than that. But you're correct that there has to be a mindset that it will be an investment for the future. It's going to really revitalize the economy, and it has benefits at the micro level. And we talked about neighborhoods because I have to reemphasize this because the city and developer have to go to the neighborhood and surrounding people around the neighborhood and say, this is what we want to bring. And of course, there's going to be a lot of going back and forth. And the city has to educate the surrounding neighborhood residents that you will get this, but you won't get all of it. Right? Maybe they want affordable housing. They want a
certainly workforce housing. A gym, a place for your kids to, a babysitting service, or your schools, your preschools, or such are online.
Preschool, right?
Or
drop off your kids and then you take the train to work.
And also, one of the things I had thought about with this is that if you want to spur development and make it easy for contractors, one of the thoughts I had on this, because this is really, to me, this is an important issue, and if we're going to grow, we need to be able to operate at a level of efficiency that we currently don't operate at. One of the big challenges that I've noticed is the Department of Permitting and Planning. It is an onerous task to get past the Office of Permitting and Planning. And so my thought process on this is, why not have pre-approved designs on 4 or 5 basic designs for apartment buildings or facilities, and if they're pre-approved by the TPP and you agree to build to the standard, you either get fast-tracked or something like that, or you get extra resources so that you can get your building built cheaply, efficiently, and quickly. And you can change the facade. It doesn't mean that the color schemes has to be the same, but in other words, if structurally it's pre-approved, wouldn't that make sense to allow people to come in and build these things quickly and get them up?
Well, you're coming to a good point because if you look at where each group, like I just listed, the city agency, the neighborhoods, and developers, if we can turn to developers, what I'm looking for is, of course, what they deal with risk.
That's right.
And
That's right.
ROI.
And this would be a way to mitigate risk, create efficiency, and also that's going to reduce costs.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what is your ROI on the project? And that's what they're always thinking about, of course, as a developer. Because
absolutely.
you can park your money in a CD, or you can go on this risky venture, or you can be a venture where it could be 20% or 15, 25. Who knows? ROI that looks more attractive, and that the risk has been mitigated, so that the city says, well, we know that you're thinking about this. We already have paved the way, but of course, you have to engage with the neighborhood really to get their input. And the end, what I'm trying to get back also is in the end, the surrounding neighborhood must own the rail station. In that
well,
investment,
you mean take responsibility for it, or be part of the solution?
You have to be really engaged, so that the city has to make it easy for riders to ride get in there, be secure, is clean, and also have like picnics. Like monthly barbecues or bulletin board. You have to make a club of the riders who must engage and really own it, because if I say to you, I don't think a rail station will be affected by graffiti, trash, or homeless. And you would say, no, you look around and it's very difficult to sustain a place.
My vision is that they're going to be, just like with the highways, they're going to be living underneath the rail.
The neighborhood, when I say neighborhood ownership, the people who live in it, around it and so forth, if they see it as bringing jobs, if it brings prosperity to their neighborhood, they're going to own it, and they're going to make it a really secure place. They're going to tell people not to touch that station because it's ours, and it promotes vitality to the neighborhood.
Well, Ray, I really like what you're saying. We're going to take a short commercial break, and then we're going to come right back. I'm Chris Lethem, and this is The Economy and You, and we'll be right back. Aloha.
You're watching Think Tech Hawaii, meeting people we may not have otherwise met, helping us understand and appreciate the good things about Hawaii. Great content for Hawaii from Think Tech.
Aloha! How you doing? Welcome to Hibachi Talk. I'm here, Gordo the Tech Czar on Think Tech Hawaii, and I'm here with my good old buddy Andrew, the security guy.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Aloha.
Good
Thanks
to
for
have
watching.
good to have Andrew here in the house. Please join us every Friday from 1 to 1:30 and follow us up on YouTube. And remember, as we say at the end of every show, how you doing?
You're watching Think Tech Hawaii, meeting people we may have not otherwise met, helping us understand and appreciate the good things about Hawaii. Great content for Hawaii from Think Tech.
And we're back. Hi, I'm Chris Lethem with The Economy and You. Today's guest is Ray Tsuchiyama. Ray just had an article published in Civil Beat this morning, and you have another article that's coming up
That's correct.
as well.
The current article that appeared today is more about at grade, to continue from Middle Street to Ala Moana at the street level. And that's option 2A in the menu of options that HART, the agency, Agency for Urban Transportation.
I got to play devil's advocate on that one. Because to me, oh my God, the worst possible thing in my mind is that I'm sitting on a train and I'm stuck in traffic. There's a dump truck in front of me, or there's a bus in front of me. I'm in a hurry. And my perception is, if I'm going to ride the rail, I got to know what time I'm going to get there, what time I need to catch the rail, and what time I'm going to get to work. And if it's going to hold me up, and I feel like I'm right back on the bus again. And if I'm back on the bus, I'm going to be back in my car. So how do I avoid that?
Well, you're talking about from Middle Street to Ala Moana, just less than 6 miles. The stations are separated like 0.6 miles. It's very short distances. Okay? Now, the issue with the train system that we have currently, that it's automated. So they have no driver. So unless we change the cars to make them come all the way with drivers all the way from East Kapolei to Ala Moana, But there are other cities like Portland that have mixtures of buses, streetcars, light rail in the street with pedestrians, with bicycles, that's integrated, and they do it very well in kind of with the synchronization of signaling, with some parts that are dedicated just for rail, for example, in the city itself. Or, like I said, it's short hops. It's not a long journey with all kinds of mingle. Again, I think that it is a way to deal with the overhead towers that are all over.
So why not bring it right down Nimitz Highway? Why not bring it right down Nimitz over to Ala Moana and do it that way?
Again, our Nimitz Highway, where the people are. You know, people are downtown. People are, in Chinatown. People are.
Yes.
You see, you have to be where the people are to have a station where people congregate and can get on the station. And we're talking about attractions. Again, the rail station is not just a place to put in your ticket and go into the station, right? And they're like sterile places without any attraction at all. When you mention Chinatown, why not make it Asian food court in the Chinatown rail station?
Okay.
Tourists come from Waikiki just to eat there. The roast duck, the pho, the manapua, and so forth. It's an attraction by itself. You work with the Chinatown merchants. You help them get loans and get them able to transfer their stalls into the. It's a win-win. And when people get in there, they go outside and go to other businesses in Chinatown. Again, we're talking about economic vitality. It's not you're not putting stations where it's a economic desert.
Well, one of the things, I'm a technology guy. I love technology. I'm a software developer. I developed software for 20 years. One of the things I think about is, as a parent, is I want high-tech jobs because high-tech jobs means I can bring my kids home. Too many of us, our kids are raised for export. And so what I see is that if we have an opportunity to bring high-tech jobs, then a lot of our kids, the best and the brightest of those that we raise here in Hawaii, and by the way, we raise some really bright kids, they're off in Silicon Valley, in Dallas, Texas, Kansas City, Boston. They're doing interesting work in those places, and it would seem to me that if we have that vitality in our community, then our kids have the opportunity to do those kinds of jobs and to be able to bring our kids home and do that kind of work. I think all of us would love to be able to do that. So can we bring high tech as part of that solution?
Wow, you're talking to a person in 1983. I returned from Route 128 in Boston, working for Digital Equipment Corporation, and I returned to Hawaii, and I promoted a project back then, which was the high-tech park for Castle and Cook. This is circa 83, 84. So it's not a recent idea, and you're absolutely right. There are many things to do, but it goes also back to the permitting idea you have. I don't think we should just focus on one part. We should make the T-shirt vendors, the small businesses, it will be a flat, easy to do business. Hawaii.
Yeah, I think that's fine, and I think tactically, those businesses are already here, and also, though, I feel like Hawaii should be where a place where there is leading technology, where East meets West. But for a few things like the Jones Act and things that have sort of inhibited our opportunity to expand our economy, if we were able to prevail and get some of those things out of the way, I know as a developer, I wouldn't have a very difficult time going to San Francisco and say, hey, by the way, you can get a place to live in Hawaii at 60 cents on the dollar for what you're paying now and still do the same work. And oh, by the way, you get to go surfing in the morning if you want to go surf. I don't think I'm going to have a lot of problems convincing those folks to come to Hawaii. And by the way, you don't need a car. How fantastic is that? You can ride the rail to work every morning. So I would say that there's lots of really great benefits to this rail.
I think if it was, again, we're talking about integration of many things within the rail system, to build a incubator space within a rail station.
There you go.
Which is connected easily to UH computer science and departments and to make it easier for entrepreneurs to really launch little ideas that come into prototypes, that come into real products. And that's the other thing. The other thing is, lower your buckets where you are. Why not have a ed center for training in IT jobs in Kalihi? At a rail station, and put a bank or insurance company backroom IT in a storage operation right by the rail station. So you hire people around that area also. So I think it has to be little things that kind of culminate in new ideas and jobs and so forth. So again, not going to classes way down in Manoa. Why can't you go on the way home?
That's right.
At the rail station.
Well, what you're doing is you're unleashing entrepreneurship, I think, is what you're really doing here. Where you get rid of barriers to success and create opportunities. And I would hope that if we're going to be doing things like this, that we're going to maybe not over-regulate this and actually sort of take a hands-off approach, much like the internet, take a sort of hands-off approach and let people see what they can come up with. And as you say, doing incubators and things like this, maybe one of the things that we do is we go back to implementing, if not a tax credit, certainly some sort of tax benefits for those who want to sort of take risk. If we can mitigate risk, we can make it more exciting.
Historically, I'm a great student of history, and I went to Kalakaua Intermediate School, and my king is King Kalakaua. He put in electric lights in the Iolani Palace before the White House and Buckingham Palace. So he was he was an innovator. He was a early innovator in many areas. At UH, AlohaNet, if you read the history of the internet, AlohaNet is mentioned as a precursor of the internet. But the thing is, and I have to make this very, emphasize this, that AlohaNet appeared in the late 70s or early 80s, but what if the AMBs and Castle & Cooks and TH Davies and all the big five companies leverage that? You see, you have to use it.
That's right.
What is the engagement by Bishop Street with UH and with leading edge research? It's hard to list the companies in the Hawaii Business 250 that base their products on research. There are very few, R&D based companies in Hawaii. So that's another area. How do you, get the ideas from a university and then make products, license it, and sell it and market it and so forth? And sometimes it deals with leadership. I mean, there can be engagement Bishop Street and UH where you can have a new center that, like you say, to bridge to Asia that takes great people from Asian, languages, computer software, telecommunications. How do you do more iPhone apps to sell in Japan and China, right?
Well, it's interesting because I worked at the School of Biological Sciences in Kansas City, Missouri, and they were recruiting people back in the 80s. They were recruiting new students, and they were recruiting people from all around the world. And the reason they did that, when I asked the professors, why do you need to recruit from Korea and China and Europe? And why not just take kids from here in the United States? He says because they solve problems differently. They bring a different set of solutions with them inherently, and it is the dynamic and the synergy that comes from people working on a problem and taking different approaches to that problem that you get the best results. And I sort of carried that thought with me because it would seem to me that what we can do is we use this rail and we build on the rail and we build the opportunities to be able to do just that. Bring in the best and the brightest from around the world to help us develop solutions here in Hawaii. I think this goes to some of the bigger pictures as well, such as immigration policy and things like that. But as we get those things fixed, those are going to help us to take advantage of these opportunities. Now, is all that encompassing on the rail? Part of it's the rail, but part of it I think is because it goes to lifestyle choices that we're making. And one of the things that we're going to have to get used to if we have this rail in place, obviously, is less driving, maybe more bicycling and more walking. Would you agree with that?
I hope so.
Yeah?
And other cities like Portland and others have really integrated all that. And that's, I think, how to really develop a whole downtown revival in a sense, or along the rail 21 stations, the integration where you can walk to your station and then take the train to another stop where you work, and then go to another stop to go to a museum, another stop to have a great Asian food mart, and another stop to go see a tennis match, or at a stadium which is adjacent to the rail system. So I'm talking about not just transportation; it's a lifestyle.
Yes.
It is a dream. It is a new urban core lifestyle, and that you don't need a car, and you just go along the line. So that is, I think, again, we emphasize too much transportation because when you look at it, it's still the same force of people coming in, commuters in the morning from the west to the east, when you think about it. There's nobody going back west in the mornings.
Well, not nearly so much,
Yeah.
not nearly so much, and I actually do contraflow right now. I'm doing contraflow because of projects I'm working out on West Oahu. I appreciate the fact that I can drive unfettered.
But would you go out on a weekend on the west, all the way out there,
Well,
if there wasn't any business reason?
Well, if I didn't have a business reason or I wasn't living out there, at this point I may not. But and one of the things that, of course, that we need to do is we need to figure out how to leverage that space out there in meaningful ways. Now, I know there's a lot of farming. We have great soil out there for growing crops, so of course we have to be concerned. Conservation has to be a part of that process, I would think, and independence. Being able to produce our own food here is an imperative as well. Having said that, though, there's still, I think, opportunities to expand and grow our economy in that direction. But I think we're going to see a much denser population area, much like you might see in Hong Kong or San Francisco or places like that. So anything you want to end with? Any key points that you want people to remember about this, about what you're doing, and about where they can find your article on Civil Beat?
Well, it just appeared in the op-ed section of Civil Beat this morning, and my other piece, I hope we publish within the next 2 weeks, will focus on the economics and, like I said before, really a paradigm. It's a space that people have to occupy, that their new lifestyle can be based on stations along this route.
And change is hard.
and if you have the right attractions, again, it will stimulate the micro destinations, micro economies, the micro neighborhoods, create better jobs, and that's where I think the society in Honolulu, the city, will be better off.
Thank you so much for being on Think Tech Hawaii and the economy and you, Ray. I'm Chris Lethem. I hope you enjoyed today's segment, and I hope it sparked some interest, and we'd love to hear back from you here on Think Tech Hawaii. I'm Chris Lethem, and we'll see you again next week. Aloha.